Welcome back to another Sonic Adventure 2 video. So this video is going to be based around ranking, not specifically tier ranking, but just ranking from worst to best every playable character's experience in Sonic Adventure 2. This will take into account the quality of levels as well as upgrades, and won't really have anything to do with story contributions because we're looking at the characters to play as, not in terms of quality in their personalities or interactions. So without further ado, let's get right into it. For last place, I know this will cause a few eyebrow raises, but I have to give it to Tails. A lot of people might say that somebody like Rouge might be more worthy of last place. I personally don't think so, and allow me to explain why. When I look at each of his stages, I care nothing for Prison Lane. I think that's the epitome of mediocrity. Mission Street, while good, isn't setting any records. Route 101 is just inappropriate to have in this kind of game. Hidden Base is like borderline okay. And Eternal Engine, while a very hot take, is my favorite Tails stage, and even then, even with the controversial take of liking a pretty hated stage, and it's still not enough to rescue this man from the bottom of this list. Unfortunately, just from quality alone, Tails just doesn't have it. And some of you might be thinking that Tails was an afterthought. Well, rightfully so. Originally, when Sonic Adventure 2 was coming out, I believe that Sonic, Knuckles, and Eggman were the only ones that were supposed to be playable, so Tails is definitely an afterthought, and it does show. It's a shame because I do like Tails as a character a lot, but this list is not indicative of that in any way, so we have to kind of glance over that. I also feel the need to mention that his upgrades are severely lacking. There's no cool upgrade that Tails gets that Eggman doesn't have that stands out and feels unique in any way. Tails is very much the secondary mech shooter here, and it's not subtle in any capacity. So for me, Tails is the worst character to play as in this game. For 5th place, I had to give it to Rouge. Now, I am a defender for Rouge. I don't think that her gameplay is necessarily as bad as some people say, but there are facts we cannot ignore here. When you look at her levels, you start with Dry Lagoon, which is a pretty good level to start off with when it comes to Rouge. Very good level. Then you have Egg Quarters, which isn't quite as good, but it continues the streak of good quality, so totally fine. Security Hall's a little more controversial, but for me, it's one of my favorites, so we can continue it to 3 good stages in a row. Then you have Route 280, which again is just not appropriate for her playstyle, doesn't even make sense, but that breaks the streak pretty easily. But maybe we'll get that streak going again, and then, nope, Mad Space. We're not having fun here. It's a shame because Rouge had a good order going, and then it just fell apart. You had a good 60%, and then the last 40 is painful. I do feel that Rouge should be ahead of Tails just because while her lows are a little worse off than Tails, her highs are definitely better. Again, it's a shame. She had a great thing going and then just lost it. Gone. For our participation ribbon, I had to give it to Eggman. Now, 4th place, since it's on the bottom half, might sound a little bad, but don't get me wrong, there's a noticeable gap in quality between Rouge and Eggman, so allow me to talk about that. Looking at Eggman's levels, you start with Iron Gate, which is a borderline good level. I would say it's good, nothing more, nothing less. Then you have Sand Ocean, which, well, it's terrible without the hovering ability, but once you do have it, it's a little rectified. Still, Eggman's worst level. Lost Colony isn't bad. And then you have Weapons Bed, which is arguably his second best, and then you finish with Cosmic Wall. The worst level of Eggman's is conditionally bad, where once you're able to beat that condition, it goes from being bad to actually kind of okay. So, in a sense, at a certain point, all of Eggman's levels are a net positive in varying extents, and not a whole lot aside from Cosmic Wall, but once you get to Cosmic Wall, I mean, you're finishing super strong, and just finishing on an impression like that alone is enough to elevate you. I genuinely had to think whether Eggman deserved 3rd or 4th, because honestly, you could probably sway me either way. But yeah, his levels are actually kind of a positive here. I also think that he beats Tails in the upgrade department. He is definitely the pinnacle of what mech shooting should have been in Adventure 2. It is still the weakest gameplay style, but Eggman shows what it's like when it's done in a better, more consistent fashion. So, honestly, I'm just gonna say it, I do like playing as Eggman. No doubt about that. He's the first character that I begin to feel a little strongly about on this list. Like I said, he might be 3rd from last, but there is that quality gap between Rouge and Eggman. I genuinely like playing as Eggman. Eggman put up a good fight for 3rd place, but I think Knuckles takes him out, just by a little bit. We did discuss how Eggman had one situationally bad level, and then after a point where once Eggman got the hover upgrade, it was a much better level. Knuckles doesn't have that problem. His worst level in my eyes is Aquatic Mine, which is a mediocre level, so it's not even bad. Everything else is good to some degree. Wild Canyon is my favorite level of his. I think it's an amazing level. Pumpkin Hill, not quite as good as Wild Canyon in my opinion, but still very good. Death Chamber's probably the 2nd worst, but it's just outright good. And then you have Meteor Herd, which is also a very solid level. So, yeah, Knuckles doesn't really have many weak points in his entire array of levels. And his upgrades are pretty fun too. The Air Necklace is basically only mandatory for Cannon's core, because Aquatic Mine you'll be spending most of the time on level 3 anyway, so you won't really need to worry about it there, but even then, it's more interesting than Rouge, so that's an extra bonus point. In essence, Knuckles is just a fun character to play as, with not very many weak spots along the way. I don't really need to say much more. His presence is definitely earned in this game. I like it. I'm sure you like it to some extent too. Knuckles, in my eyes, is worthy of being 3rd place. For 2nd place, it has to be Shadow, because the running stages do carry this game. Now, there's an obvious reason why Mr. First Place is Mr. First Place, but let's talk about Shadow and give him the spotlight he deserves. He's given a lot of challenge in this game. Not only are his upgrades significantly worse than Sonic's, but he also has the least amount of levels out of anyone in the entire game at a total of 4. So quite the low number here. We could make a case to penalize him for the lack of levels, but let's be honest, 3 out of 4 of those levels are excellent. Radical Highway is as iconic as it is because its quality and atmosphere are so endearing. White Jungle, while not quite talked about as much, is still a great level in its own right. Skyrail is a lot of fun too, even if it's not the most polished. The only stinker here, and it's not that bad, it would be Final Chase, which honestly just needed more polish, which it did end up getting in Shadow Generations, even if that is 23 years later. But just in the scope of Sonic Adventure 2, his 3 amazing levels are enough to help balance that one sloppy level, so I can forgive him for that. Like I said, his upgrades definitely are lacking compared to Sonic's, but it doesn't hurt him so much because his levels are still a blast to play through, with the one exception. With that though, let's go see who's first. Okay, yeah, you already saw that coming. Let's just cut through Sonic's levels. Cityscape, amazing. Metal Harbor, amazing. Green Forest, amazing. Pyramid Cave, great. Crazy Gadget, great. Final Rush, amazing. Green Forest, good. Come on. All of his levels are near peak. This is just insanity. Somebody disqualify this blue hedgehog because the competition just isn't fair. This is like a 3000 ELO chess player going up against a 250. That's just mean. Also, we don't need to talk about... No, we're going to talk about his upgrades. What do you think you're watching this video for? Super Bounce. I don't need to say anything else. I don't care if it's not intended. We get it because of the Bounce Bracelet, and even if we weren't talking about the Super Bounce, the Bounce Bracelet in itself is super awesome, so that alone's enough to make his moveset worthy of number 1, but we have the Super Bounce, so even better. Imagine what kind of game we could have had if we had a game with Sonic's quality of levels, but in a more modern setting that played more akin to the adventure style. Sonic Frontiers was kind of like that with its open zone, especially once they added the spin dash. Oh my god, I love the spin dash in Frontiers. But this is about Sonic Adventure 2, damn it, and Sonic completely dominates the competition in that game. Which is fitting, but it's a shame that no other character could even come close to this crazy blue hedgehog. Anyway, that marks the end of this video, and I want to thank you all for watching. Last video resonated with a lot of you, and I was glad to see so much discussion in the comments. Believe me, I'm always reading that stuff, even if I'm not necessarily responding, but yeah, thank you guys for all the engagement. I'm glad that you're interested. With that in mind, though, I hope you have a wonderful day. Take care for now. I'll see you in the next video, and goodbye.